Engineering Conversations, and today we have another female engineer with us. Her name is Ashley, and she recently finished her master's degree from Loughborough in Aeronautical Engineering. She's also from Canada, and she'll be sharing her engineering journey with us. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you.
So, what inspired you to pursue aeronautical engineering?
I came into university on the foundation course. So I started because I have a bit of a tricky educational background because I've moved around quite a lot in my life. So the foundation was the best way for me to get into university. And coming in on the foundation, I actually was going to study mechanical engineering after that first year. I was looking at kind of all the different options because at the time we still had a bit of a choice. It just kind of depended on the results from the foundation year, whether you could do one course or another. And I had one of my lecturers say, "Have you thought about aeronautical engineering?" It's like, oh, I don't really know if I want to, so far to planes. Plus my father's actually worked in the aviation industry, not in engineering, but around airports. So I've been like around airports most of my life. So I didn't know whether I wanted that to rub off on me too much. But after looking at kind of the variety of things that you can get involved in, both doing the course and after, I found it a lot more interesting. So it's not just planes, but it can be cars. You can turn into Formula One aerodynamicists if that's something you're interested in, or you can go into the power sector, so nuclear power stations. So there's a lot more than people realize to aeronautical engineering than just planes.
When I even hear aeronautics, the first thing that comes to mind is planes, airports, anything aviation. That's the first thing that comes to mind. So it's really good that you break it down that it's everything. That probably is the bulk of it, and then there are other areas too that you can go in, like Formula One racing car. So I know you mentioned your route into engineering, which is probably very different from your average student here in England or in the UK, where they're doing GCSEs, A levels, or going through an apprenticeship route. Do you want to describe how your route into engineering was? I know you mentioned foundation, but what did you do, I guess, from Canada? Did you have to do the SAT exams, or what did you have to do?
Yeah, so I actually moved to the UK the year that my A levels started. So I was living in the States, so the US before that, and came over a combination of different reasons. But came over straight into A levels. Now, the way that the education system works in the US is that you kind of do a little bit of everything and a little bit of everything not very well. Like it's not that you don't do it well, it's just that it's not in the same depth as you get with I guess A levels specifically as well. And one thing is when I was in the States, I had never studied physics before. So I came to the UK and was looking at my options, and I knew I was good. I didn't really like English. It's not that I was bad at it, I just didn't really enjoy it. And I was kind of looking at the different options that I could take. And I sat down with the person, that was helping me with my choices when I came to the UK. And they said, okay, well, you like maths, physics is a good option, and chemistry, biology, you can kind of explore those sorts of things as well if you just stick within kind of STEM as it is. And the only thing that I was worried about was the physics, because in the UK you start physics when you're in year 7 and you're used to, you learn bits and pieces over the years. And I had come into my first A-level physics class and didn't even know, how to calculate voltage and these things that you learn in year 7, because I just had no exposure to it. So that was most definitely the most difficult thing, was coming in and just kind of, not only getting used to, living in a different country, but, meeting new people, and then this whole A-levels thing. And at the time, of course, there was still ASs and A-levels. So within the first year, I was, in a very different way of learning. So obviously my A-levels didn't go great. So that combination of the fact that I was still technically international helped me get onto the foundation program, which was my route into engineering.
So how would you describe your modules in engineering to future students? Did you have any favorite subjects that you were like, oh, this is actually interesting?
You know, the range, I think, I guess it's the same in any type of engineering, but the thing with aeronautical is that there's a lot of little pieces, and then you can go very deep in some of them. So the main difference between a subject like mechanical and aeronautical is the fact that we go so much deeper into aerodynamics. So that becomes a huge part of the course. So I think we do aerodynamics, gosh, it's so long ago now, but we do aerodynamics in first year. And I know we had low and high speed aerodynamics. That's looking at, all the different ways that air moves and air performs at different air speeds. So that's a major part of the course. But not only that, you need to worry about structures. You hop on a plane when you go on holiday and you look at the wings, and you have to think of the weight and all the effort that those wings are having to deal with. So structures is a huge part of the course as well. But a lot of another really interesting thing I think that I enjoyed about the course specifically at Loughborough was the design element. So we get to do some different types of design modules. So in my third year, I did a gas turbine design module. And that was such a fascinating thing. We actually designed an engine start to finish over the year. Did it work perfectly well? No. But luckily we weren't getting paid to make a working engine. It was just for the practice of, figuring out how much twist the blades need in the engine and those sorts of things. So I found that really fascinating. But besides from structures and design, you've got, at the beginning you do maths subjects. So that's sort of to make sure that everyone's caught up to speed and you learn things that you'll then need in your third and fourth year. I think our last maths module was maybe in second year, could have gone into third year, but it's things that you then carry with you and you continue to use throughout your degree. So yeah, I think for me it has to be the design modules, because I think it's kind of biggest picture. And of course, at the beginning of your degree, you learn all those sort of foundation elements to, whether it's aerodynamics or if it's maths or if it's, anything like that. And then you actually get to apply it later on in your course. And I think that's what I liked, was getting to that point where it felt like I was then capable of doing something that felt a little bit more dramatic. So.
Okay. So I'm guessing your main interest is in the design bits of aeronautics.
Yeah, I think.
Or do you feel like you will end up switching, or at least so far?
Yeah, no, it's funny because I just realized that I didn't even talk about what my quote specialization is, because I think, we don't have in the US, I found speaking to engineers, is that what they actually do is they have a specific specialization that they move through the degree working on. So you might be an aerodynamicist, or you might be a structures and materials type engineer. But here you do still get the option to kind of pick whatever you want. But for me, I was very much the aerodynamics, the anything that I could do that would involve a bit of design, and CFD, so computational fluid dynamics. So that's anything on the, computer modeling the way, flow air moves around bodies, that sort of thing. So that was those were kind of my biggest areas of interest that I was able to then tailor my course to as I moved into my third and fourth year. I didn't really enjoy structures. Some people love it. It's some people's absolutely favorite thing. But for me, I like the more kind of, I guess, a bit bigger. Obviously, aerodynamics goes all the way down to boundary layers and things like that. But yeah, that's sort of where I found my happy place, I guess.
So throughout your bachelor's through to your master's degree, engineering tends to be lots of boys, lots of men, even looking from the standpoint of probably your lecturers, and then you look around in the classroom, probably sometimes you might be the only girl, or there might be 2 or 3 of you, and then it's like a sea of men. Um, at any point throughout your journey, did you feel like giving up because of that representation, or even quitting your program?
Oh, you see, I came from an all-girls school. I've been in all-girls school, I think most of my kind of secondary education sort of part of my life. And in that environment, as a woman, it's okay to do maths. There still might be not be the the biggest number of people in those A levels or in your class or whatever. But it's fine to be like the loud one, or the one that does maths, or the one that does physics. So I came from almost, I guess a very nurturing environment to that sort of promotion of women in STEM, going straight into my foundation. And then my first year, because I kind of had it twice, the foundation was interesting. There were more women because it could branch off to any form of science. And then hopping straight into my undergraduate course, where I think I might have been one of 15 to 20 in 110, something like that. So it's not so bad. But when you think of the fact that still means like 80 plus men in the room, it is much different. So I think at the beginning, I can remember sort of clumping together with the other women, because that's how you feel safe, I guess. But then as you progress through the degree and you get to know different people and you get put in coursework groups and things like that, it's, you kind of get that little bit more comfort out of it. I guess in a way, I'm fortunate that I had that type of education, that it was, I was a little bit more confident in myself already. So I didn't feel horrible, but sometimes you do kind of get that sense of, oh, are people really thinking that I'm the same, or stuff like that. And you get I don't want to say the odd comment, because I've never had anything horrible said to me, but sometimes people will say in passing, oh well, she just got to that point in the placement application because she's a woman, when in reality, like, she's got better marks than you do, she's more personable than you are. And it's things like that I think it's so much better. And it's even better than when I started my undergraduate. You see, as time moves on, the boys get more comfortable in the fact that they're on level heading with a lot of the women. And then at that point, the women start getting more comfortable as well. And you just have to stand up for yourself. So I don't know if I was ever close to quitting because of that. But I think you do kind of have to take it, you get used to kind of that different environment. And is it uncomfortable at times? Sure. I'm not going to say that it's not. But over time, like it gets better. And, as you get more confident with yourself and, whatever university you're at, you get more comfortable being there, you start to find your own voice. And yeah, so.
That's really good, because I feel like that has been a deterrent in getting more females into engineering, because people hear engineering, they just think of men, and I'm like, there are lots of women here. Probably not in the same numbers, but there are women in engineering. What support systems have kept you grounded in your engineering career?
I think you make friends, and you have those sorts of friends that you sit with during lectures, or that keep an eye on you and what you're doing, and try to make sure that everyone's doing okay. But I think that you need to have a separation from that support system and those people that you see all the time, because I think the good thing about having a group that you like to sit with in lectures is that if someone's missing, you can send a message to them saying, are you okay? Are you not coming today? Do you need me to pick up notes for you? That sort of thing. So that's kind of one support system that I found. But then of course you've got, I'm fortunate that I've got a really supportive family who've always, believed in me and the fact that I wanted to do engineering. But then outside of that, you get involved with different things at university. That's one of the biggest things that I'd say, is to make sure that you don't just do your degree. It's so easy to, and I think I have found people in their fourth year of different degree subjects that focus so hard on the academics that they have nothing else on their CV other than the fact that they are a really good student. So I found support in, in the sport team that I was on and with, and it's just having those different environments, especially at university when you first move there, to have other groups that know you in a different way or can make you feel a different way. Because of course, when you're with your course friends, you're going to be talking about the work that you have to do, or you're talking about how that lecture was, not the most exciting one that day, or that sort of thing. And regardless of if you try to not talk about your course, you'll always end up having that sort of conversation, or talk about the fact that you've got a deadline 2 weeks away and you guys are out for dinner. Was that really the smartest thing to do? But then if you've got another form of friends at university, that's really helpful. Some people find that with who they're living with, and other people don't. And it's okay if you, in your first year, you're not in love with all the people that you're in your flat with, or you're in your house with. Because if you have another place, like another outlet for yourself with people that don't want to talk to you about your course, but they want to talk to you about whatever it is that's exciting that you do together, I found that to be really, really helpful, because it's completely separate from that thought process of engineering. Because, you can complain to your parents, or you can complain to your sibling, but it's not the same as somebody who's in an experience with you. So that's why I found having that type of different support system really helpful.
So people come in and it's like just a single view, and they forget there's supposed to be experiences that they're having in addition to the academics. And I feel, for me personally, I feel that makes you a more rounded person, getting involved in everything that the university has and can give to you. But I don't know whether, sometimes I don't know whether it's just universities that don't advertise things that they can offer to students, or it's students that don't make the effort. Maybe it's both. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it is a combination, because of course, part of it is you get to university, your parents or your family or whatever drops you off, and then you're kind of, for some people, it's the first experience of being away from their parents. Or I was, in a sense, fortunate, because it sounds funny, but my father traveled a lot for work and that. So I was kind of already used to speaking to someone over Skype, and that being just like almost just as good as having them in person. So I didn't really deal with any sort of homesickness. But getting there and having to get used to cooking if you're self-catered, or all these little things that people don't necessarily think about, to then force people to think about a sport or a different type of activity or society on top of it, I think is what overwhelms people. The thing that I would say is make sure that I know at Loughborough we offer tasters for everything. I think societies do it, and so do sports. So it's just worth giving everything a shot, and then find what it is that you love. And I think in engineering, you can do multiple things, but if you want to do one thing well, do one thing well. That's what I decided. I decided that my route was sport. So I'd stuck with that, and gained, leadership opportunities and that sort of thing that have added to my CV. So it's so worthwhile taking the time at the beginning to figure that out. Make sure you're still going to all your lectures and doing all your work. But it's just so important to force yourself out of the house at the beginning, so that you can find that different group of people that like something that you do as well, that aren't a part of your home life or your course life. I think is so important.
I think it's basically just step out of your comfort zone as well, which is kind of scary, but you have to do it. But I think that would eventually add up to that experience. What advice would you give to future engineers looking at people who are currently doing their A-levels, or are in year 13 or year 11, trying to pick subjects to do in A levels or even apprenticeship engineer, what advice would you give to them?
So for people who are thinking, looking at potential A levels, if you're thinking that you want to do anything even remotely engineering related, maths, physics, those are absolute musts. I work in I was just talking about this, I work in the call centers for clearing at Loughborough University. And you have people ringing up saying, oh, I want to do civil engineering. And you ask them what A levels they have, and they're missing maths or they're missing physics. It's just a straight no. And it sounds brutal. But at the end of the day, those are the two kind of building blocks that you need to be able to study engineering. So after that, with the third one, they don't really mind. Universities don't really mind. If you want to do another science, go for it. If you're looking or you're ever thinking about maybe wanting to do something like bioengineering, obviously biology helps you with that. Or chemical engineering, obviously you need chemistry. But if you're thinking about more kind of general engineering, mechanical engineering, aeronautical even falls under that list. You can do something that you love. I know people who their third subject was history or geography. It's, of course, if you want to make sure that you've got more covered, then maybe one of the other sciences will be helpful, because if you then decide that you want to do chemical engineering but didn't pick chemistry, that's not going to work in your favor. But if you're looking at just wanting to have those two base subjects and do something else that you enjoy, then it's completely doable. You can work into the STEM route that way. But to people in their A levels, I think it's just stay focused and know that this year was difficult. Hopefully, this coming year, people will be able to sit their exams. The thing that I would say is that it's such a good start for engineering, and the fact that when you come to university, you've got coursework, especially, well, in my degree at least, we have coursework and we have exams. I would have, something like 4 or 5 pieces of coursework over a semester, plus 6 exams at the end of it. So it does give you that preparation for the idea of having to revise multiple things at the same time. And a lot of the time you can spend during your A levels is working out the ways that studying works for you, or how you learn best. Obviously, coming to university, it's much more self-led. You don't have a teacher there looking over your shoulder constantly. You can go to lecturers and ask for help, absolutely, but it is a different way of working. So if you learn how you like to take notes best, or you like to revise best, that's a really great extra skill that you can get coming out of your A levels in order to be able to work better at university.
I like the fact that you mentioned maths and physics, because I feel people don't realize it's quite key to engineering. But then there's also amongst the 3 sciences, there's the people seem to run away from physics than the other 2, and I'm like, I feel like physics is way easier in chemistry and biology, because it's just, once you get the principle and you know how to use the right formula, you are fine. So to wrap this up, what do you do outside of engineering that people would most likely be surprised about to find an engineer doing, but you would probably call it fun and your escape?
So for me, I've already mentioned it briefly, but for me, my main outlet was sport. I actually joined the rowing team when I started at university, and absolutely loved it. Ended up stopping the actual rowing part and joining the committee to help build the club up. I ended up chairing the club for 2 years. And those are sort of experiences that you can't get just through your degree. So that's why, going back to what we were saying previously about making sure that you find something outside of your course will add so much to your personality and will, make you that more well-rounded person, as you had mentioned. And for me, my sport actually translated into my final year project. So when you do a master's or a bachelor's, at least for my degree, you're required to do a research project. So for me, I looked at the fluid mechanics of competitive rowing. So I decided that, what's interesting is that a rowing oar is essentially a hydrofoil. So it's essentially an aerofoil, but in the water, hence hydro. And I had gone to one of my lecturers and said, what do you think of rowing, like as a thing to maybe consider for a project? And he looked at me and said, okay, write me a proposal. So I did. And then ended up having my final year research project be on the aerodynamics, essentially, of a rowing oar. And it was really fascinating because I did it in CFD, so computational fluid dynamics. So I modeled a blade in the water and ended up modeling both air and water and saw, waves coming over the blade. It was a really fascinating, different way that you can apply aeronautical engineering. It's like we were saying at the beginning, it's not just planes. By the time my fourth year rolled around, I was a little bit sick of the idea of talking about planes all the time. So I wanted to think about something different for a little bit. And it was still perfectly transferable. I've learned things in computational fluid dynamics that other people won't know because it was a different way of modeling the two different why can't I think of the word phases? So we had air and we had water. So it was really fascinating. It was a way that I turned my love of the thing that I did outside of my degree and kind of pulled it in to see what could make me different. And it's actually been a really interesting talking point with other people or even looking at jobs, that sort of thing. Because it's so different, people are interested in hearing something else because they think, oh, aeronautical engineering, but you did something with water and a sport. And so it's, you can tailor your course at the end of the day to do something that you want. But for me, my escape was absolutely the rowing. I met incredible people. Some of my best friends come from, the fact that I did rowing on the side of my course. And really, I've just, recommend it so much that people find something else because it's so important and it absolutely builds your character.
Thank you, Ashley, for sharing your engineering experiences with us. I have learned a lot of aeronautical engineering because I think I was one of those people that would usually do the planes, everything aviation. Now I know that, okay, you can apply it in rowing, in sports. And I'm even sure I can even apply it in like maybe how blood moves through vessels, modeling all of that. That can also be done. So it's very applicable. And we've learned a lot from you. Thank you so much.